Well, years of financial sector lobbying have succeeded in persuading the House of Representatives to approve the biggest rollback of banking rules since Dodd-Frank. The bill now goes to President Trump, who is expected to sign it into law. Bloomberg senior international editor Jodi Schneider is here. Jodi, take us through the highlights. I mean, this is a real win for the financial sector.
Yeah, and it's a win for President Trump and those who have wanted to make significant changes to what was called the Dodd-Frank legislation that was passed in 2010. Republicans have wanted to lessen the impact, particularly for what they call smaller institutions. And this looks like the kind of legislation that does that. It does part of that. It doesn't go as far as some wanted, but it was a bill that was negotiated between moderate Senate Democrats, who they needed their votes, and Republicans to move this along. It basically raises the threshold from $50 billion in assets now to $250 billion in assets to be declared a systemically important institution that has more Fed oversight. So a lot of medium-sized institutions would not have to comply under this. And also, it's expected there'll be more deals in that space because a lot of times these deals were not done. They didn't want to get to $250 billion and have to comply with the additional regulation.
Jodi, of course, there are criticisms. What are they?
Yeah, well, from the left, some Democrats, it's really split Democrats in the Senate, and those more on the left, including Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts, say it's a giveaway to banks and to bank lobbyists. And bank lobbyists have been pushing for this for several years. And then also on the other side, some people think, Republicans think it doesn't go far enough to make changes to Dodd-Frank. The president himself said on the campaign trail he wanted to gut Dodd-Frank, and it doesn't go that far. And Wall Street investment firms and bigger banks really are not affected by this.
But tell me something here, Jodi. You know, is Donald Trump expected to sign the bill, and what happens after that?
He is expected to sign it. We haven't heard from him in the last day or so about this, but again, this was a campaign promise. What happens after this is that they got a promise to look at further changes, bigger changes, later in the year. But because it's an election year, they were kind of going for what they could. This is probably the last thing that'll pass in this space before the midterm election. So they're saying they'll go back and look at more changes later on in the year.